Hello traders, this is Jay Lakhani, your Forex educator from BindalFX. In this video tutorial, what I would like to tell you about is the Bindal Momentum Indicator, which is an MT4 indicator giving you live trade signals and setups. Before I go into explaining you more about this wonderful indicator, which gives you a near 80% probability of winning trades, let me tell you a bit more about the product and services at BindalFX. Firstly, we have got a book, Forex Mastery, a Child's Play, which is available from Amazon.com or your bookshop. Secondly, we have an investment mastery training course where we guide you step by step how to pull the trigger, when to buy, when to sell. In addition to that, we have a one-to-one mentoring where we hold your hand. It's just not only training with historical data, that is very easy to do, but we walk the talk. We walk the talk with live trade signals and broadcasts and tutorials. Obviously, you got the MT4 indicator, which is actually giving you that information anyway. But what's happening is that when the setup is about to happen, how to trade the setup, how to trade the indicator, we basically will give you live trading broadcast. So, as I say, we are unique in the sense that we walk the talk. A bit of risk warning. Trading Forex, futures, options do carry a high degree of risk, and it may not be suitable for all investors. Now, one thing I would say, and it is an accepted fact, that 90% of traders lose money in this business. Yes, 90% do lose. Now, why do they lose? They lose because they don't have an edge. They lose because they don't have a trading plan. They lose because they don't have a proper tested strategy. They lose because they don't have a mental fitness. They lose because they are not able to control their emotions. They lose because they snatch the profits and they don't let the winners run. They lose because what they do is they let the losers run. They add to the losers. Whereas at BindalFX, with this indicator, it helps you to discipline yourself to make sure that you follow the system. Now, if you follow the Bindal Momentum Indicator as taught by us, then there is an 80% probability that you will make lots of pips, lots of profits. What about the risk reward? The risk reward here, minimum, we are looking at 1 to 3, i.e., you're risking £1 or $1 to make £3. Now just think about it. With an 80% probability, this is hell of a good system. Okay, so let me just briefly explain you on this particular chart. And as you can see here, right at the bottom, we have an indicator. I got 4 numbers here: B1, B2, B3, and B4. Basically, B1 and B2 is looking at scalping intraday. So what I'm looking at is, if I've got these two with the same color, I'm looking to trade in the direction of the color. So if the color is red, then it means that I'm looking for shorts, and of course if the color is green, I'm looking for longs. And as I say, B1 and B2 is intraday and scalping. B3 and B4 are looking at longer term time frames, and here this is ideal for swing trading. Also, you can use this for both, for intraday as well as swing trading, when all of them are the same color. So if you look at it here, when B1 to B4 begin with the same color, which really means that you ought to be looking for a short, and when you have everything pointing in one direction, expect a mega move. In addition to this Bindal Momentum Indicator, what we have, as you can see, this line here, that is a Bindal trigger line. So when the color is white, or you can have it as green, it means that I'm looking for a long trade, and when it turns red, I'm looking for a short trade. Okay, so as you can see here, it's a nice short and all the way down. Thirdly, within these indicators, you can see these horizontal lines, and these are unique Bindal pivot points. Now they act on as very strong support and resistances. Often when you have got lots of pivot as close to each other, especially here I've got the green pivot and the yellow pivot, expect that to be a signal for a big move. So in this case, I've got a nice resistance at the green pivot, and as you can see, the resistance did hold, and we had a nice 1 2 3. All that is a lower high. Okay, and look at that big move to the downside, and as you can see here, this is where my entry for the short was, and at the time I took the snapshot of this chart, I was still short. Okay, so the key point here is that the BMI, which is Bindal Momentum Indicator, B1, B2, B3, B4 are all red. I've got a very strong resistance at the pivot point, and the Bindal trigger line is red, and everything aligned, and all I'm really looking for is a 1 2 3 setup for me to pull the trigger. Secondly, here we're looking at long trade. Okay, so as you can see here, B1 and B2, B3, B4 are all green, which really is telling me that expect a mega move up. And as you can see, all those pivot points acting on as support, and then each pivots are breaking to the upside, retraces down, and now it acts on as a support, right? And often, as you can see, the momentum going up, and each of these pivots are breaking, and the indicator here is heavily into a buy mode. So when you see something like that, you are not going to try and outsmart the market and go against it. You will go with the flow. You will be disciplined following the system. And also, as you can see, I get up arrows here telling me that I should be ready to add to the winners. Now you see, this is what professional traders do. When they are in the trade, they are adding to the winners, as opposed to amateurs or losing traders. What do the losing traders do? They snatch small profits, they let the losers run, and for them the losers are buy and hold. Okay, whereas at BindalFX, what we teach you is, hey, if the momentum indicator, which is like in this case heavily in a buy mode, for heaven's sake, don't try and outsmart the market. What you really got to be looking to do is every time you got a pull back, a 1 2 3 setup, bounces off the pivot point, bounces off the Bindal trigger line, you are looking to add to the winners. Okay, Again, another very good example here. B1, B2, B3 are all long. I got a very strong support at the magenta pivot and a nice break of resistance trend line, and this is where my entry was. And what I'm really seeing there is, as soon as I see the momentum, the trigger line rising, and my entry there, quick move up, still in the trade. And the key point is to let the winners run. Professional traders do not snatch small profits. What they do is they manage the losses, they cut their losses, but they let the winners run. Another excellent example here, as you can see here, the momentum at this stage has been short. The B4 is the longer term time frame, and that's been on the long side. And as you can see, as soon as all of them align in the same line, same color, we are looking for a trade in the direction of the setup. And as you can see, a nice entry here, and up she goes. So having this color codes there helps you to be disciplined, so that you are actually following the rules. Also look at this unique Bindal pivot points acting on as support, and then when the resistances break, the most important here are the green, the yellow pivots. Also the magenta is very good to watch out for. And when these pivots break, expect a big move up. And here again, see the magenta pivot breaks, a big move to the upside. Another amazing trade here. As you can see, a nice resistance at the pivot. Prices break the green pivot and then retraces back. And in this particular case, now the green pivot is becoming a resistance. And hey, by that time, you have your B1, B2, B3, and B4 all red. And this really is telling you that this price action is likely to go down heavily with a very high probability of around 80%. And look at that. And as soon as you get those arrows, the pullback back onto the trigger line or back to the pivots, you are looking to add to the winners. Whenever you have got the angle and separation between the pivots and the trigger line, it is really telling you that the momentum is in your favor. You really don't want to get out of this trade. Okay, this is another example here, a live trade which I had taken. As you can see in this particular case, what I do have is B1, B3 and B4 are green. B2 is a bit bearish, but overall the longer term is looking very good. Now, one of the things what I personally like to do is I really like to have a well thought out trade, chart analysis, look at support and resistances. A, I've got a double bottom here. B, I've got a support at the white pivot. Prices go up, pull back, and the trigger line changes from red to green or white in this case, and prices go up. I basically enter as soon as the trigger line confirms a buy mode. And in this particular case, I just did multiple trades, and often my stops are just below the previous low or below the trigger line. I set up multiple targets and you literally forget it and let the system do the work for you. Two things will happen. Either you get stopped out with a small loss, or your targets are met and that would be massive profits. And as soon as you are in a profit, there's a good angle and separation between the trigger line and the pivots. You are raising your stop losses. So stop loss then becomes a stop profit. Okay, here again, another trade here. As I explained, is when you have a well thought out entry following the Bindal momentum system, as soon as a setup happens, you fire. And often my stops are very tight, and obviously, as you saw, I used the 1 minute chart to enter, and that is how the algorithm for the Bindal momentum is programmed. Although I could be looking at longer term time frames, 4 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, but my entry is based on that 1 minute chart. So I can get away with a tiny stop, tiny stop there. Can you see that? That's my entry, and as soon as the trade's taken, I set up multiple targets, and the key point is as soon as my TP1 is hit, TP2 means my take profit to target, I am starting to trail my stops, and it would then get under my entry point, in this case the short, and that would be a stop profit. Okay, this is another example here of fundamental news. Now here again, see, looking at M1 1 minute chart, but if you really look at the overall trend, overall signal, B1, B2, B3, B4 are all green. Non-farm payrolls here, price shoots off, and see it comes all the way down where? To the magenta pivot. Okay, these pivot points are very important, and then as soon as the trigger line goes into the bullish mode, I am looking to enter, entry there, and up she goes. So that's been a big move to the upside. Okay, here again, what I would like to illustrate is the power of the pivots in conjunction with the Bindal Momentum Indicator. So what happens here is all 4 time frames are short, and I have got very strong resistance at the green pivot. White pivot breaks, and down she goes. So again, at this point, I'm looking for a short trade. At every pullback, you could be looking to add to the winners. And as I mentioned earlier on, as soon as you see a big move down, a nice angle and separation between the trigger line here, which is red, and the pivot points, I am trailing my stops all the time. Okay, this is another trigger line setup. Just look at this big up move, and you can see the trigger line here has been bullish all the way, and then a very powerful resistance at the green pivot. Look at that big wick. Obviously, I'm waiting for the trigger line to become red. I'm looking for a 1, 2, 3 setup, and as soon as that is confirmed, see, that's where my entry was. In this particular case, I'd set up multiple trade positions and TP1, TP2, etc. all taken, and then trailing the stops. So see, that's my entry. My stops now is sitting here. Okay, so key point to success is letting the winners run. Professional traders do not snatch small profits. Professional traders, they go for big wins. And the Bindal Momentum Indicator and Bindal Trigger Line helps you to go for those big wins. And look at that. I've got a decisive break of this magenta pivot. And what happens? Down she goes. Right? Okay. Even here, if you look at this position here when the prices were going up, prices pull back. See, the prices never move like in one straight line. They go up, down, up, down. Now, prices, see, retraced all the way down to the trigger line. And then what happens at the magenta pivot? We have a decisive break. So at that point, you're looking for longs, and here you're looking to tighten your stops because strong resistance there, and you would have been stopped out here, and that would have been a massive profit on the long side. This is another trigger line trade. Okay, and as you can see, a nice move to the upside. Your longs would have been stopped out. And then we have very strong resistance here. Now, key point success in trading, you've got to identify your support and resistances. Okay, if there are resistances, you're looking to sell. If there is break of support, you're looking to sell. So here I've got resistance there, break of support, trigger line is red, and I've got a nice 1, 2, 3 setup. And as you can see, that's where my entry was. Okay, look at that. Is after banking a lot of profit, I am heavily into profit. My stops are heavily into profit. At this particular point, you got your pivot points. Subsequently, that had broken, and that was really good, juicy profits banked. Okay, traders, I hope that this brief illustration of the Bindal Momentum Indicator with the unique Bindal pivot points with signal arrows coming and reading in conjunction with the Bindal trigger line has been of help to you. And if you'd like to get hold of this amazing indicator, do email us at info@forexforyou.net. Further information can be found on www.forexforyou.net. We have got licenses for 12-month membership, which comes in with one-to-one mentoring. Also, you can subscribe and try it out for 1 month. And we also offer a full money-back guarantee that if after 1 week you decide that you do not want this indicator or it's not working for you, which is highly unlikely, you can ask for a refund, no questions asked, and the full amount is returned back to your credit card or debit card. God bless and happy trading. Goodbye.